The heart of my home is the kitchen. And at this time of the year, it's the perfect place to gather and celebrate the festive season.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
For me, Christmas is all about rustling up some fantastic food and eating it in the company of my favourite people. These are the dishes that I cook when I want to spread a little bit of cheer. These are my Christmas home comforts. Christmas Day may be the highlight of the holidays, but all that pressure in the kitchen can definitely put a dampener on your celebrations. But don't panic, I've got all the recipes you'll need together with some fantastic tips to make the day go off without a hitch. Today I'm adding some seasonal fire to a classic starter. Now treat this like rocket fuel. It's everything you want for a lovely Christmassy edge. Settling creative differences with my Michelin-starred mate, Paul Ainsworth.
Do you want some more?
Absolutely. It's my house now. Cheers, everybody. And discovering that there's more to Christmas dinner than I thought. I've learnt a new dish today, chocolate and Yorkshire pudding. But if you want the day to go well, you need to start it well with something that's easy to prepare and bursting with flavour. And this is my favourite way to kick off the celebrations. Right, well, the big days arrive. You want something really nice and simple for breakfast. And rather than do a full English breakfast and fill everybody up, because you really want them to eat that lovely Christmas lunch, this is the great alternative, and it's using waffles as the base, and it's a simple recipe that you can incorporate tons of different flavours in. And I'm going to do this with smoked salmon. You want something luxurious, but you want something not too heavy because you want to enjoy your lunch later on. The first job is to make the waffle batter. Mix 250 grams of plain flour with about 200 ml of milk, 3 eggs, a pinch of baking powder and salt. And then we grab some melted butter. So you just want about 100 grams of butter that we just melt in a pan. While it's on the hob, add around 200 ml of milk to the batter mix, followed by the butter. And don't go using half-fat ingredients. This is a Christmas recipe. Now, if you want to turn this into a sweet batter, you would just put in a little bit of sugar. But this is where you can add whatever you want. I'm just going to add a touch of chives to this, but you could, of course, add a little bit of cooked bacon, even some chopped smoked salmon. I'm roughly chopping 3 tablespoons of the herb. Once mixed in, the batter's ready to go into the waffle iron. And this is the fun bit. You just want a tiny little bit of butter in each one. And all we do is just pour the waffle mixture in. Now, it's got baking powder in, so they will actually puff up a little bit, so try not to overfill with mixture. We just shut the lid, like that. The waffles take around 4 to 5 minutes, and while they're cooking, you can get on with poaching your eggs. You start this by bringing a pan of water to the boil. Drop some salt in there, and then you got some vinegar. So whisk up the water so you get a nice little vortex. Swirling the water like this stops the eggs breaking up. Just as well, because you really don't want to waste these. And I'm going to use duck eggs. I love duck eggs. You could do this with some hen's eggs, but I think duck eggs work a treat with this. When your eggs go in, turn down the heat and let them poach for 3 to 4 minutes. In that time, heat some butter into a pan, and when it bubbles, add a little greenery. I've just got some picked baby spinach, tiny bit of salt, a little bit of black pepper, and we're just going to wilt this down. As soon as it hits the pan, you take it off the heat. And it basically keeps that nice colour. And if you keep the colour, of course, you keep the flavour, which is perfect. This is really just fancy egg on toast. I pile the wilted spinach, slices of salmon, and poached egg onto the waffle. But to make it extra special, I also add a touch of creme fraiche. And all you do is grab some leftover bits of chives, chop them up, put the chives into the creme fraiche, And all you want is a dollop of that over the top. And there you have it, breakfast for a champion. It's delicious, it's really simple, but it's really luxurious. You've got the nice warm waffles, you've got the wilted spinach, and that delicious smoked salmon, and not forgetting the amazing duck egg. As you basically crack open the egg yolk, you get this lovely sauce, makes it really special for a Christmas morning. And above all else, it's actually nice and light, because you know what's coming. A big roast. We all like to raise a glass at Christmas, but we don't have to stick to the same old tipples every year. Our festive food reporter, Annie Gray, has gone to Austria for some alcohol inspiration. And she's found plenty of ideas in the amazing Christmas markets at Innsbruck. But she's also got a whiff of something special up in the Alps.
I'm here in the village of Stans in Tyrol. It looks sleepy and quiet, only 150 households, but 50 of them are distillers. It's why it's known as the town of schnapps. I'm here to meet one family in order to find out about schnapps, Austria and Christmas. Schnapps is a brandy that can be made from all kinds of fruit. In the Tyrol, more than 4,000 people have a licence to distill it. Not bad for a place that's barely bigger than Yorkshire. The Schimpfursel family take a real pride in their festive version of the spirit.
Hello, Angelika.
And I caught up with Angelika to find out about their juicy, homegrown ingredient.
So this is your orchard? Wow.
Yes.
Tell me, what's special about these plums? Are they a particular variety?
We say we have Genussregion. It means in this region the plums are very good. But it's special here because we are living in a village 1,035 meters high. We can have 25 degrees Celsius on the day, and in the night it can go down maybe 5 degrees. That's why the plums make sugar.
And how important is the fruit for making schnapps? Can you make it with just anything that's lying around, or does it have to be really good?
Only what you put in, you can get out. So if there is good fruit in, you can good schnapps become out.
And it's popular here in Tyrol, especially at Christmas.
Yes, it's very popular at Christmas because it's the time when we produce the schnapps, because the fruits are ready in September and we produce the schnapps in the time before Christmas. It's very special to drink a schnapps after a very good meal.
So it's just a good medicinal thing to have at Christmas.
Yes.
Before anyone can take a sip of the stomach-settling spirit, those plums have to be picked. The whole family helps with harvesting. Then it's over to the master distiller, Angelika's husband, Josef. What we're doing here is making a mash. So in go the plums, and then we're going to just add some yeast. And this is the base for our schnapps. Making the drink started as a hobby for Josef about 25 years ago. It's not exactly a money spinner, but he loves it so much he even takes time off work to do it. I don't blame him. What's not to like about playing with a giant mixer? I wish he'd give me a go on it. Smells like autumn, all the plums together giving off this incredible aroma. Kind of like jam, but kind of not. The next step is to distill the seasonal spirit from the plummy jam. And, as this is a proper cottage industry, Josef does it all in his front room. This gets more fascinating by the second. We're just adding the mash. That's the plums that we saw earlier. They've been waiting for 2 weeks with a bit of yeast. They go into this, and then there's a wood fire underneath, which is heating up all of the plums so that the alcohol comes off and then it's distilled down into a bucket. There's no water added, it is all just pure fruit juice. And this starts the process of making schnapps. You can see that the alcohol is being condensed right now and coming off into this bucket. And that's at about 45 to 50% alcohol. That's then taken off. It's then redistilled. And by this point, the alcohol will be at 80%. And then it will be watered down to give us what we think of as drinking schnapps, around 40% alcohol. But there's more to this than science. Making schnapps is also an art. Distill it for too long and it reeks of hay. Stop the process too soon and it tastes of garlic. So, getting the plummy, Christmassy flavour just right really is a job for an expert. Good schnapps needs a lot of things. You need to be able to judge when the fruit is ready, you need to be able to make the process happen properly. You need a real personal set of skills to be able to know that you've got a really good product. This is so brilliant. Schnapps brings the whole family together. I'm definitely going to have a bottle in my cupboard on Christmas Day.
Like Annie, I love trying out new flavours at this time of year. But there are one or two traditional dishes that you just can't beat. I'm making a massive festive lunch for some special guests later, and I'm kicking the whole thing off with a classic starter. I'm going to create a wonderful little pate. It's really simple, using chicken livers at its base. Now, you can use duck livers for this. It's entirely up to you which one of those two that you use. First off, you'll need to cook the livers. But before they go in the oven, season them generously and add fresh herbs. I've got marjoram still growing way till sort of January, February, but if you haven't got this, you can just use some basil, you can use rosemary, bit of thyme. It's entirely up to you what herbs you want to put in here. And then a tiny bit of brandy over the top. Now, as I say, a tiny bit, a little bit. It's a Christmas portion, isn't it, really? It smells pretty good. And just took the whole lot in the oven. Don't overcook them. If you overcook chicken livers, they instantly go bitter. To avoid that unpleasant taste, preheat your oven to 230 degrees centigrade and put them in there for just 4 to 5 minutes. While they're cooking, I oil a tureen that I'm going to use as a mould for the pate. And just line this with cling film. Well, I say just line it. But as we all know, cling film is one thing almost guaranteed to slow you down in the kitchen. Still, Christmas recipes are worth making a special effort for. This has to be nice and sort of precise when you turn it out. So make sure you've got no air bubbles in there. When the livers are cooked, pop them whole into a blender and blitz to a fine puree. So while the livers are still warm, you can throw in a decent amount of butter. In my book, a decent amount is 250 grams. With the motor running, add it a bit by bit to the pureed livers. Stop the blender and season well. Plenty of salt and pepper. Then just blitz again for a minute or two. Then you'll end up with this amazing mixture, this beautiful colour. And when you pour it into the mould, you get this delicious pate. It really is that simple. Now this goes in the fridge to chill for half an hour, leaving me time to make my lovely seasonal chutney. And this is the key to it. Bramley apples, one of the finest apples there is. And I've tried growing these in my garden here, failed miserably. So I've resorted to buying them, but there's one thing with these, you're guaranteed an amazing flavour. It doesn't work the same with eating apples. Peel and slice about 450 grams of the Bramleys. Then add 200 grams of light soft brown sugar to a dry pan. Get this on a high heat and get this caramelising. What this is going to do is speed up the process of making a chutney. I always like a little bit of fruit as well as the apples, so you can use sultanas. I've got some nice apricots here, but you can use dried figs, works really well also. When the sugar is caramelised, add the dried apricots along with 2 finely chopped shallots. Now at this point you can turn it down a bit and we can deglaze the pan with some vinegar. You can use malt vinegar, or I've got white wine vinegar. Or even, of course, a bit of cider vinegar will work as well. Now I can throw in the main ingredient, those lovely Bramley apples. To give it all a bit of winter warmth, I also add a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. And then ground cloves. Now treat this like rocket fuel. Cloves are so strong in flavour, so you only want a tiny, tiny amount. You start to get this amazing smell coming off this chutney. And a free facial. Once everything's in the pot, cook until the apples are tender. Then stir in chopped walnuts and season well. So you can just leave that to go cold. To make sure the pate doesn't discolour, I'm using ready-made clarified butter, otherwise known as ghee. Now you can actually buy this from the supermarket. In Indian cookery you use this all the time. Melt it down and pour that over the top of the set pate. And once you put the butter over the top, you can make this about a week in advance. You can even freeze it. Once you get that nice and covered over the top of the pate, pop it in the fridge and leave it for a couple of hours. Because I'm a 70s kid, I'm serving this with Melba toast. To make it, I first grill good old-fashioned white sliced bread on both sides. And then what you need, it's good to do it with a serrated knife, is you slice the bread in half through the middle like that. You then need to roll the slices, cut side down on a board to remove any loose bits of bread. What you end up with is sort of a thin, dry piece of bread, which is perfect for Melba toast. Just put it under the grill. It'll only take about 30 seconds. Keep your eye on it, because you definitely don't want it to burn. Works. Look at that. Melba toast. With everything else ready, the only thing left to do is demold the pate. And you've got a real Christmas cracker on your hands. Now, the reason why I'm serving it on this, and on this piece of wooden board, is that this is actually my gran's old wooden chopping board. It's kind of a little homage to her. You've got a chicken liver pate with a lovely apple and walnut chutney and classic Melba toast. It's everything you want for a quick and easy starter at Christmas. All of it can be made in advance. And it is one of those classic dishes. By adding those lovely winter spices, that touch of clove, a little bit of cinnamon, this gives that lovely Christmassy edge. This dish is a real reminder of my childhood. Another one is Christmas crackers. And do you know what? I still get a kick out of those old jokes. And food historian Ivan Day has been finding out when novelties like these first landed on our tables.
Breaking open a novelty to discover a small gift, motto or riddle inside dates back to the Tudors and lasts through until the 18th century. They had a sweet course called a banqueting course, which consisted of edible sweets placed on the table for the delight of the guests.
And the richer the host was, the more extravagant the gift.
We know about bottles of perfume, diamond rings and other expensive items of jewellery. So when their guests broke them open, it enabled hosts to demonstrate to their friends that they could afford to enjoy such luxuries.
And Ivan has been busy for weeks hiding surprises in his own festive novelties. Today he's making his final treat, ready for the big day.
I have a little book here which is called A Queen's Delight, the Queen being Henrietta Maria, who was Charles I's wife. And these are allegedly recipes from her. And I have one here which is to make artificial walnuts. And that's the recipe that I'm going to use from the 17th century.
Ivan begins by mixing powdered sugar with water and a strange medieval binding material, gum tragacanth. After kneading, it becomes smooth and white.
I've got here a little pot covered with silk, which has been rubbed with almond oil. And this is Tudor cling film.
Having rested in Ivan's special airtight container for 24 hours, the paste is ready for a splash of colour.
A very popular dye used by Tudor confectioners was something called red sanders from a tree which grows in Indonesia. And it gives this amazing brick red colour. I pick some up on the paste and I knead it in. And I'm going to pick up a little bit of cinnamon, and I've also got some ginger, which I'm going to also blend into the paste. We're getting a colour now which is not that far off from the light brown of a walnut shell.
Illusion and deception were all part of the fun, and Ivan's 17th century walnuts are tame compared to the elaborate novelties created for royalty.
Mischievous sugar novelties like these often featured on royal tables. Henry VIII once presented Francis I of France with a full sugar chess set and board. His daughter, Elizabeth, at Christmas in 1561, was given as a table centrepiece a scale sugar model of old St. Paul's Cathedral.
That must have been quite a treat, even for a queen. Before long, people lower down the ranks were enjoying sugar surprises at Christmas too. And Ivan's been hiding gifts and mottos inside his own designs.
So here we have a lovely selection of sugar seashells, artificial walnuts and other novelties. There's a magnificent sugar egg which has really caught my attention here. So let's see what's there. To crack it open. Aha! Amethysts and diamonds, my goodness me. And of course, the other feature that's so important in a Christmas cracker these days are those corny old mottos and jokes. So let's see what we have in this Tudor artificial walnut. Do you know what it says? It says, "There is no place like home comforts."
Now, all that sugar's got me thinking about how I'm going to round off my own Christmas Day lunch. I've decided to do something a bit different. It's a dessert that's rich and festive, and there's not a brandy flame in sight. Now, to be honest, it's difficult to know what to do for dessert on the big day, but for me, it has to be one thing, and that's not Christmas pudding. It's a prune and Armagnac tart, one of the finest desserts and tastiest desserts you'll ever have, because when it's made fresh, it can be absolutely delicious. So the first thing I'm going to do is soak these wonderful prunes, Austrian prunes. You'll need to warm a syrup of Armagnac brandy, water and sugar to soak them in. Austrian prunes come from the southwest of France and are just about the best you can get. But you could make this dish with less fancy varieties. Fantastic. We just leave those just to sit there and plump up and get full of flavour. Think of this as a French version of the Bakewell tart. The base is a sweet pastry made from plain flour, butter, icing sugar and eggs. What we're going to do is roll this out. Now, the key to pastry is make sure the surface is cold. That's why it's a good idea to use a metal surface or even a bit of marble, to be honest. I remember when I was a young nipper, for Christmas, I was always into a bit of sugar work, and I always wanted a sugar lamp. And sugar lamps were a heat lamp over the top of a warming plate. But being a Yorkshireman, my dad was never going to spend 300 quid on a heat lamp or a sugar lamp. I ended up with a pig lamp and a bit of broken marble, but it kind of worked. In order to get this pastry to work, you need to roll it out nice and thin, and then use it to line a greased baking tray, but don't trim the excess just yet. And that looks pretty good to me. So once you get to this stage, we take the entire lot, chill it. And while the pastry case is in the fridge, turn your attention back to the prunes. Now, even after about sort of 5 minutes, these will actually start to puff up, which is exactly what we want. And then what we need to do is to create almost like a puree. And for that, what I need to do is just blend some of these prunes with some of the liquid. About half of them. And what we end up with is what the French call a jam. You've got this combination of prunes and Armagnac, and we can use that to line the base of the tart. Now the flavours remind me so much of my childhood. And this is one that I have in the house all the time at Christmas time. I just think it's so special and so simple to prepare as well. So you've got that layer of the prunes. Now one thing you have to do with this as well is keep this still nice and cold. So back into the fridge. And then we can make our classic frangipane, that really light filling that people know of when they're thinking of Bakewell tart. Start by beating 100 grams of butter with the same amount of caster sugar until it's white and fluffy. Then mix in 3 eggs. Now the key to this is add the eggs one at a time. You mix this together. Sometimes it'll actually start to split and separate. Just keep persevering. The mixture will come together, and then we add another egg. Now what you end up with is this very light, kind of sponge mixture, I suppose. But then we need to add the rest of the ingredients, which are ground almonds and self-raising flour. And for that, it's crucial that you measure them. What you need is 50 grams of flour and 125 grams of ground almonds and another splash of Armagnac. Then it's just a matter of mixing the whole lot together gently and using it to fill your tart. Now, the reason why I like this, particularly for Christmas Day, is that you can make this on Christmas Eve. And actually, in fact, you can do it the day before Christmas Eve as well, because you don't have to cook it until Christmas Day. You can just leave it in the fridge until you need it. Spread the almond mixture evenly and then gently place the Armagnac soaked prunes on the top. Making a Christmas pattern with them is optional. I'm not into sort of fancy sort of stuff, just randomly chuck them on. And then grab some whole almonds. It's a good idea to use whole almonds and not flaked almonds because the flaked ones tend to burn. What you do is just chuck them on with finesse. Like that. Decoration done. The tart can now go into an oven, preheated to 190 degrees centigrade for 25 to 35 minutes. While it's baking, put the pruny Armagnac syrup back onto the heat. So bring it to the boil and rapidly cook this for about 5 to 10 minutes. And after that, that sugars will start to thicken up the liquid, which will make a nice glaze. When the tart comes out of the oven, cut off the excess pastry. To turn it out, I put a bowl under the tin. And then for a final touch of seasonal excess, I whip cream with a splash of what else but Armagnac. You could do this with pouring cream, you could do it with ice cream. If you want to be a bit fancy, you could do it with a creme anglaise or a custard, really. But for me, I like the simplicity of this. And let's face it, on Christmas Day, we just want it nice and simple. And of course, it would be rude to serve it to anybody without some quality control. Well, that's my excuse. Now, you have to take my word for it when I say this is one of the best desserts you can ever make, if it's made properly. So just a dollop of the cream as well to go with it. If there was Christmas on a plate for me, this would be it. This festive dessert is part of a meal I'm cooking for 8 people later. I want Ralph to look his best for the occasion. But his costume is going down about as well as a turkey dinner did for Ian and Brenda Waterman a few years ago. But instead of accepting their Christmas Day disaster, they decided to take radical action.
Essentially, it goes back about 12 years when we were having a Christmas lunch, and I said to Brenda, not a bad turkey. And she said, well, it should be pretty good for the price I paid. She told me what she paid for it, and I nearly went through the roof.
Once he'd calmed down, Ian decided they could rear better turkeys themselves. And he knew exactly what type of bird they needed.
I was adamant that I wanted the heritage variety, a traditional variety. And by that I mean a turkey that can mate naturally, can incubate and rear its own young. So we started looking around.
But that search proved to be long and difficult, because these turkeys are rarer than hen's teeth.
All of the 9 varieties that we have are on the Rare Breed Survival Trust endangered list, but some are rarer than others, in particular the buffs. They are a variety, small, diminutive bird, very nice nature, very good flavour, easy to keep. We have the lavender. They're a good converter of feed to meat. We have Krolwitzers, who are not good on the table, but they're beautiful for ornament.
Some of the birds have talents that stretch far beyond the Christmas kitchen.
Turkeys, they're tremendous characters, no doubt about that. They can make very good pets.
But sentiment aside, Ian and Brenda are running a business. And every year, customers like Peter buy their turkeys to rear at home during the run-up to Christmas.
They'll fatten up nicely for Christmas.
They do lovely, I should think.
And how were the birds that you had last year?
They did very well indeed. The family members had them and they were happy, you know, really enjoyed the taste and the flavour of the turkeys.
The couple are at their busiest in the spring and summer, when chicks hatch and there are young to look after. By late December, they can relax, even if the turkeys can't.
On Christmas Day, we find it quite amusing coming out and giving them some treats, thinking, you made it this year. Let's hope you do next.
With a steady supply of free-range birds roaming outside, you can guarantee the Watermans lay on one mean Christmas lunch.
They're a niche bird, but they're a delightful bird to have on the table. They're unique, and we should hone in on that. And I think it's only by creating a specialist market for them that we can sustain them long term.
It's delicious, it's full of flavour, and it's got a body to it. It's not the least bit watery. Really nice.
Clearly, the key to a happy Christmas dinner table is a tasty home-reared bird. And Ian believes we could all enjoy the benefits of a DIY turkey.
I would love to think that other people would do just as we've done. You could do it in a back garden. You could have a couple of turkeys, and you could enjoy a brilliant Christmas dinner that you produced yourself.
Well, I'm not sure how impressed Ralph would be if I started breeding turkeys in the back garden.
Ralph?
But luckily, he does approve of my Michelin-starred buddy, Paul Ainsworth.
Oh, mate.
How you doing,
How are
buddy?
you? You all right?
How you doing?
You all right? Yeah,
Good to see you. Come on in.
Excellent.
He's here to help me make my favourite Christmas meal. We've been friends for years, and today I'm hosting a festive blowout for him and his family, who are all coming over later. I thought we'd do classic roast dinner.
Yeah.
I thought we'd do roast beef, Yorkshire
Yeah.
pudding, roast potatoes you've got to have, and we're going to do a selection of veg,
Yeah.
because that's really what Christmas is all about, a classic roast dinner.
Definitely. Nice to have a change as well, see some nice beef.
Yeah. So are you a traditional sort of thing? Would you do turkey or not? You just...
No, I do beef.
Right.
Do beef, maybe a nice shoulder of lamb. Traditional roast, keep
Okay.
it nice and simple.
I'm all for an easy life too. For our Christmas lunch, I'm using a beautiful side of sirloin. The key to this is sealing the meat in a pan before it goes into the oven. A straightforward job, unless you've got someone like Paul in your kitchen. Right, so the pan's on full wax. I'll let you season the beef.
Absolutely.
There you go.
So I just score it as well, just across.
You can't resist, can you, these Michelin-star boys? I would just stick it straight in the pan.
So just let it sit in, doesn't it?
Oh, that's to get the seasoning in?
Yeah, that's it, that's it.
Now, you say that the Christmas is sort of traditional for you, really, but...
I mean, Christmas is very special to my mum. That's like the one time a year you don't mess around with. Remember once me and my sister went out on Christmas Eve,
We weren't too good Christmas Day. Never again. Gosh, he was not impressed.
When it's well and truly seasoned, the meat goes into a very hot pan with 25 grams of dripping. Once it goes in, don't move it. Too many people start fiddling around with it.
And then the water comes out of the meat, and then it just starts to boil, and it's no good. And it's like you say, just relax.
Because it should be stress-free.
It's in the preparation, isn't it? You know, just do that prep, and then just make the day quite simple and enjoy it with the guests.
Well, I'm going to get the potatoes on as well. Now, these are King Edwards, which I think are the best. And cut them up into decent sort of sized pieces. I don't like roast potatoes that are too small.
No.
The potatoes should only take a few minutes to parboil in a pan of salted water. I'm giving myself the simpler jobs because Paul loves the more complicated stuff.
Oh, dear.
Because you were classically trained, though, were you, Reddy? You were ex-Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah,
as well.
Gary Rhodes, Marcus Waring.
There was food in your blood then, or...?
Yeah, definitely. I think I was very lucky. I grew up in... My mum and dad own a bed and breakfast in Southampton. Dad cooks every night. He cooks all the breakfasts in the morning. Then my mum would cook it weekends. I was very lucky to grow up in a household where everyone cooked.
Once the joint is sealed all over, put it into an oven preheated to 200 degrees centigrade. I like my beef medium rare, which takes about 50 minutes. And now it's time to sort out the spuds. Right, what I want you to do with the tray, just put a few pieces of dripping in it.
Absolutely,
And I'm going to get the potatoes. Drain them off. Shake the pan like that, just to loosen them up a bit. Just break the edges of the potatoes, really, more than anything else. Look, what are you doing?
Do you want some more?
Absolutely.
Is there not enough in there?
It's my house now.
Yeah.
Although we're
lovely.
cooking for your lot. Into the tray. Pinch of salt.
Yeah.
No grief whatsoever. In the oven.
In the oven.
Doing the meat and spuds is the easy part on Christmas Day. It's the endless veg preparation that most people find a bit nerve-wracking. Not that that's a problem for me this year. I'll let you break this up into little florets. You can be as chefy as you want.
Yeah.
All right. So what was Christmas like for you growing up as a kid?
It was literally about the lovely meal, all the family being together.
Yeah.
And sort of like that, which I think's nice, because I think that is ultimately what it's about.
So do you want this rest of this cauliflower or something?
Oh, do you want all of it doing?
Of course we do.
Yeah, okay.
How many people?
All right.
We've got 8 of us in there. No matter how many guests you have, the key to making your Christmas veg is to cook them one after another in the same pot. But to avoid the cauliflower getting discoloured by the carrots, cook it first. The great thing about this is all the veg, all the veg is perfectly cooked. That's what we're looking for. So while I cook this lot, I'll leave you to prepare the next batch, which can be the beans.
Beans, yeah.
So top and tail the beans, and
Yeah.
then we're going to basically do the carrots.
Do you want them both ends? I leave this end on. I thought you would do that being a Yorkshireman, to be honest. You take top and tail.
No, we just leave the whole thing. Now, do you have traditions at Christmas, or...?
Mum has her tradition, so you wake up, the Christmas albums are on.
Christmas albums are on?
Yeah,
Oh,
music's a huge part of it. Huge part of it.
See, we had an organ. Nobody could play it, apart from my granddad, who used to get quite drunk and thought he was basically Liberace on the piano.
How did you do the whole Father Christmas, mince pies, milk and all that? Well, that for me was just, that sticks in my mind so much. I couldn't believe it when I saw it empty. It was just...
Yeah, he'd obviously been.
Yeah, he'd been. Started drinking a pint of lager at one stage as well.
I don't remember Father Christmas having that much fun in our house. Anyway, the cauliflower will take 3 to 4 minutes. Then plunge it into iced water to stop it cooking. After that, it's just a matter of repeating the process with the other veg, ending with the carrots.
My mum would always keep that water. We'd have a ham on Boxing Day, and she'd put that for the stock and that amazing soup.
So we just put it in a container and give her it as a Christmas present.
I think she'd appreciate that.
He's going to be in trouble when his mum sees this. Whatever you decide to do with the water, the beauty of cooking your veg like this is you can prep them beforehand, leaving plenty of time to get your gravy just right. So I'm going to get the sauce on for this one. We've got the residual sort of gubbins, as I call it, from the beef. I add 200 ml of red wine to the pot and cook it until it's reduced by half. And then we're going to take some of this beef stock. This is just bought-in beef stock. You can buy this
But they're great quality now, aren't they?
I think it's fantastic.
Stunning. I mean, look at the colour of that.
Use a litre of the stock and cook the whole lot until it's reduced to a nice thick gravy. Meanwhile, I'm going to let you, on your own, let you loose in my kitchen
To do
the sprouts.
To do the sprouts.
Okay. And surprise, surprise, Paul's making posh ones. He starts by frying pieces of streaky bacon in a pan with some dripping. And then we've got the fun job of chopping 500 grams of sprouts.
Like I said, all this crisscrossing and stuff like that, just shred them nice and fine. It's just like cabbage. For me, this is the one vegetable that you could just do about 10 minutes before serving.
I've noticed how you started talking and stopped chopping.
Chopping. You don't miss the trick, do you? I thought I'd get out of it.
No one takes it easy in my kitchen. When the bacon is crispy and golden, Paul adds the sprouts and fries them for a couple of minutes. A knob of butter will make it extra rich. Then it's time to crack open a classic Christmas ingredient. Now, the two types of chestnuts you can buy, obviously fresh, what they call sous vide, and these are sous vide ones, much easier. Now, be careful when you're actually buying these as well, because they come whole, which it says on the whole, but right next to it will have pureed, and there's two different types of puree, sweet and savoury.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be cooking the sweet ones with your sprouts, believe me. About 250 grams of the savoury version works a treat, though. I think they're good like this, actually, the sprouts. It just takes them to a different level.
Yeah.
Finally, add a splash of water and stir fry for a minute or two. With the sprouts done, the last job is to warm through the cooked veg. It takes just 30 seconds in one pot of boiling water. Then it's a matter of plating everything up.
Look at that.
Just as well, because Paul's family has arrived. He'd better get a move on. Hello! Come on in. Come on in.
Here we go, guys. Dig in.
There's nothing to beat good food with friends. I just hope it gets the festive thumbs up from Paul's mum. Do you want Yorkshire pudding?
Not massive ones.
You're in a Yorkshire's house, mother. Anyway, cheers, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Cheers, everybody. In my book, you just can't top a roast dinner at Christmas. But by mixing traditional dishes with new flavours, you can really make the big day go with a bang. And with a little forward planning, you'll even be able to sit down to enjoy the food yourself. Well, now you know how to make Christmas stress-free. And if you're worried, invite a chef over for dinner.
Well, I think that's a really good idea.
Yes. I've learnt a new dish today, chocolate and Yorkshire pudding.